Flosstube. My name is Mariam. My pronouns are she, her. You may know me as Marroomycrafts on Instagram or Marroomydesigns on Gumroad. Welcome to my channel. This is a channel about cross stitch and crafting in general today, but we're going to talk about finishes in 2022. So I'm going to cover all of my cross stitch projects as well as my diamond painting projects for today. It will be interesting to see how many projects I have finished, right? Can you guess? I think technically you can cheat and go to the end and see the tally, but I'd much rather you stick around and watch the whole thing. Alright, so for my project, how I'm going to show them to you, I have a few of my cross stitch projects that I have to finish here, so I can hold it up and show it to you. But the rest that either are gifted or not available right now, there will be images inserted instead. For the diamond painting projects, I'm gonna insert photos for all of the projects. Alright, let's get started because it's a long list, right? Okay. I'm gonna start with stitching projects first, and then I'm gonna move to diamond painting. So, first project that I finished was Victorian Rose. This was the very last stamped cross stitch that I actually finished, and I have done some research. I could not find any actual artist that came up with this this design, which in this case is actually good news because I purchased this from a company that I later found out that had a lot of kits that are from true artists reproduced as a stamped cross stitch without paying the artist, basically. So yeah, China has their own and Russia has their own copyright rules, so they're following their own restriction and rules. Anyway, so this is the last project that I have finished. I'm not doing any stamped cross stitch anymore because I want to make sure that I'm valuing the designer who came up with the actual pattern. Alright, so this is a 14 count canvas, and I used all the threads that came with the kit as well. I'm probably gonna finish it as a project backed. Next is Persian Love or Ishq. This is my very first design that I came up with. This is the first pattern I designed. Original name is Persian Love, but if you look at my Gumroad right now, this is listed as Ishq instead. It was because PayPal was flagging this purchase as suspicious because of the Persian that is in the title, and they were questioning people, what is this Persian thing that you have purchased? So yeah, so I changed the name to Ishq. So if you're interested in purchasing this, is on my Gumroad page. Model was stitched on 16 count Ada in mulberry, and the thread that I used was Anchor White in, is it? Yeah, it's 0001, and it was on a spool, and I do not recommend Anchor on a spool at all. It's low quality. People complain about black spool anchors, but white is not that different either. It's really frustrating to stitch with it. So yeah, and I used a frame, like a pack of 4 frames that I bought from Amazon. Yeah, I have glass on it. Right? Next is another, my second actual design. I insert the photo here. It's called Noruz Dance Sampler. It was for Noruz of 2022. It was stitched on 18 count Ada in Rue Green, and I used sulky 12 weight in the model stitch, and as it was charted. I also provided the DMC equivalent in the pattern, so if you ever wanted to stitch that, there is that option as well. Right. Next is Funky Peacock. Here's the image. This is the first installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. That was a collection that I came up with in 2022. Included patterns that are inspired or with motifs from a specific kind of Persian rug. It's called Gap Bay. It was this kind of rugs are made by nomadic people of Iran, and it's freestyle. So people don't really follow any specific pattern. Instead, they use their imagination and everyday experience to create these rugs. And the motifs in them, some of them are repetitive, so you can actually see the pattern there, and people tend to use the same motifs and animals because it's what they see most, or it has a specific meaning to them. So I chose 9 of those animals, and I made patterns for each one. Right, so Funky Peacock was the first in the series, and I stitched it on 18 count black using sulky blendable in truly teal, and the number for that thread was 4021. Next is The New Normal by Long Dog Samplers. Here is all done. I started in September of 2021 and was able to finish it in 2022. I stitched it on 18 count Ada in light coffee, and I used sulky blendable in peacock plume, and the number for that is 4016. This was a good experience for me stitching. However, this taught me a lesson. This was the first time that I stitched something completely in blendables, and then I washed it, and I realized that blendable is not color fasted. So just a heads up, if anyone wants to stitch with blendables, make sure that you either pre-wash the thread or don't wash the work, because yeah. So I had to soak it, then I had to really quickly steam dry it so I can prevent color from running. So yeah. Next is Wonky Cat. Here's the image. This is the second installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. I stitched it on 18 count Picture This Cross confetti, and I used sulky black 1005. Next is Vase from Thrace. This is from Bendy Stitchy Designs, and I stitched it on 18 count Ada light coffee. You know the drill by now. And I use my own sulky conversion. The only thread that I use that is called for is the gold, which is Petite Treasure braid. Right. I like this pattern a lot. Next is Hazy Hen. Here's the image. Is third installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. I stitched it on 18 count light pewter, and I use a sulky blendable in red brick. Is 4007. Next is You're Okay. Here's the image. Is by Bendy Stitchy Designs, and this was a gift for a friend. I stitched it on 18 count hand dyed fabric by me, and I used my own sulky conversion. Also, I modified the pattern a little bit for it to say You're Okay, breathe. Next is Lanky Camel. Here is the image. This is the fourth installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. I stitched it on 18 count Picture This Plus Haunted, and I used Sulky Blendable in Sundown, and the number for that is 4065. Next is Giddy Crafts. Here's the image. This is fifth installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. I stitched it on 18 count Ada, hand dyed by Mislaid Pages. This was inspired by that fabric, and as soon as I saw the fabric, I knew that I wanted to design something for it, and I came up with this pattern. And I stitched it with Sulky in Cabernet Red, and the number is 0169. Next is Matter in Hand. Here's the image. Is by Jeannette Douglas, and I stitched it on 18 count light coffee. I used my own Sulky conversion. I also modified the pattern. Throughout the pattern you see cross stitch in different languages written, and I took 3 of those out and I replaced it with words for cross stitch in Persian, Japanese, kanji, and Arabic. Next is Cat's Reflection Sampler. Here's the work. It's by Peruvian Flair. I stitched it on 18 count Ada, hand dyed by me. I used 3 different neon color that I had in my stash. These are unnamed neon threads that I had, so I really don't know what they are, but I love the effect. It doesn't really show on the camera that it's like really truly neon, but it is really neon. I really enjoyed stitching this. I enjoy Anna's designs in general. She inspires me a lot, actually. I started designing, one of the inspiration for my designs was Anna from Peruvian Flair, and how she gets inspiration from her background and culture to make her pattern and design her patterns. So yeah. Next is Perky Lion. Here's the image. This was the 6th installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. I stitched it on 18 count Ada, hand dyed by Mislaid Pages. I used Sulky Blendable in Deep Woods, and the number for that is 4038. This was my release for Pride Month. Next is Move Forward in Love. Here's the image. This was by Modern Fork Embroidery, Jacob, and it was a stitch on 20 count Fortnite fabric Ada in Exceptional, and I used Sulky conversions. I'm not completely happy with the center, the part, the yellow that says forward on it. I wish if at the time I thought to change the color white for the actual word to black maybe, or a darker color, so it will be more visible. But all in all, when you look at it from close up, you can actually read it, and I love how detailed the pattern is. So overall, I really enjoyed stitching, and I love the outcome. Next is Prickly Ram. Here is the image. This is the 7th installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. It was a stitch on 18 count Picture This Plus Jade, and I use a Sulky Blendable in Forever Green, and the number is 4051 for that. I love how angular this design is. I really enjoyed stitching it. Next is the keychain set that I got from Amazon. Here's the one. It's a thistle pattern on it. I used the thread and fabric and everything that came with the kit. I originally stitched my name on the a leftover fabric that was in the kit, planning on having the back side say my name. However, it made it really bulky and it would not really fit in the keychain cover. So instead I separated that in another keychain, and now I have the thistle like separately. Next is Some Good. Here's the image. Is by Darling and Whimsy Designs. It was stitched on 18 count, hand dyed by me, and I used two different sulky blendables. One was Milkshake in 4011, and then the second one was Poppy in 4061. Poppy is one of my favorite sulky blendables, so at some point in future I'm hoping to be able to design something completely with Poppy. Next is a small kitty. Here's the image. I really don't remember the designer for this. If I remember, I know that I bought it from Etsy, and if I remember, I will add the link in the description box. But yeah, this was on a 20 count white Ada, and I used random threads that I had in a stash, and this was a gift. I don't have it anymore. Next is Stitcher's RSVP. Is by Alicia, Paulson. This was a sal, Not Coming sal, and I really enjoyed stitching it. This was a really quick stitch. I changed the pattern, the color of the cat, to blacks to reflect my own cat. This was stitched on 18 count Rue Green, and I used my own sulky conversion. Next is Zippy Dog. Here's the image. This was the 8th installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. I stitched it on 18 count Ada fabric from Mislaid Pages, hand dyed by Mislaid Pages, and I used sulky in mid navy, right? Yeah, mid navy 1197. Next is Sican Bird by Peruvian Flair on Aguayo. This is on 18 count Ada, hand dyed by me, and I used my own sulky color palette, and most of it is solid except for these two that are blendables. I just picked the colors that would work well with the fabric that I chose. Next is Fussy Rooster. Here's the image. That's the 9th and final installment in Magical Carpet Menagerie. I wanted to go out with a bang, so to speak. So I really love this pattern. I stitched it on 18 count Ada, hand dyed by me in red, and then I used sulky blendable in soft blacks, and the number for that is 4034. Next is Sailor's Delight by D and Kari, and I stitched it on 18 count Picture This Plus Jazz, and I used my own color palette, and these are DMCs that Nitya from Daybreak Stitchery actually gifted to me, and the numbers are 807, 3838, and 3687. So the original pattern calls for navy and red, but this is a softer interpretation of that same color palette. Next is Cane Capole by Java Stitches from Etsy. This I think is Cane Capole 4 if I'm not mistaken, and I stitched it on 18 count fiddler's cloth, and I used my own sulky conversion, which is a little brighter than the color that is called for, and this has a lot of fractional stitching and back stitching, but because I use fiddler's cloth, the fabric is really loosely woven, so it's easy to pierce it using a regular tapestry needle. I didn't even use a sharp needle to do it, and I was able to complete it. And this was part of a sale that is started by Nitya from Daybreak Stitchery. Next is Baluchi Moons. This was a charity pattern that I designed, and you had to send a proof of donation to receive this in email. I'm hoping to release this as a charity pattern sometime in 2023. I haven't decided on the charity yet, the organization that I'm going to send the money to. It was a stitch on 20 count fortnight fabric in Terrific, and I used 3 different sulkies. It's 0175, 1051, and 1332. Next comes a series, a few of finishes that are all done during October, month of October, and they were all from Just Cross Stitch Halloween edition. 3 from Halloween edition 2021 and 3 from Halloween edition 2022. So here's the first one, and the objection that I had for myself was all of these should be stitched on leftover fabric and using leftover threads. So a lot of these are cutouts from when I finish a project. If there was any leftover fabric, I would cut it and save it for a small like this. So the first one is Angry Cat from Just Cross Stitch magazine, Halloween edition for 2021. And I use, again, this is Picture This Plus, 18 count Picture This Plus in jade, and I use random threads. Next is Halloween Night, again, Just Cross Stitch magazine, Halloween edition 2021, and I modified the pattern a little bit just because the ghosties were charted gray, and I really didn't want to stitch ghosts in gray, so I changed it into white. And the fabric is 18 count Ada overdyed by me, and threads are random threads that I had in a stash. And for the moon, I added a little bit of metallic in there. I don't know if you actually can pick up on the shine there, but it's pretty shiny. Next is Bones and Eyes, again, Just Cross Stitch magazine, Halloween edition 2021. The fabric is hand dyed by me, and I use threads from stash. Next is Haunted Pumpkin Trio from Halloween edition 2022. So Just Cross Stitch magazine 2022. And then I stitched it on 18 count Picture This Plus Jazz, and I used threads from my stash. Next is Pumpkin King, again from Just Cross Stitch magazine, Halloween edition 2022, and I stitched it on 18 count Ada hand dyed by me, and I used 2 different threads from the stash black and this gold metallic that I had. Next, on the same fabric is this way, Nevermore, again from Halloween edition, Just Cross Stitch magazine for 2022, and I use some threads from a stash. For the size of this, it's actually really detailed, and I love it. Next is Halloween Cat by Pixel Pixie Stitches, and this is what I used to say Astro here. I changed it to Assad. Assad is the name of my cat, and I stitched it on 18 count Ada Picture This Plus in Haunted, and I use threads from stash, and I changed the color of the cat to black to represent my cat. Yeah, I actually really love this. I have bought the whole, I think almost all of these, the series that has like cats in little frames, and I'm planning on stitching all of them and changing all of them to black to be similar to my cat. Next is Afshan sampler. This was the last design that I released for 2022. It's a sampler that is Wagire sampler in the style of Wagire sampler, which are sampler rocks. And the purpose of them was for the buyer to decide on the pattern and color that are used to make the rock. So this one is for borders. So as you see, there are like various of borders. It's like a band style of sampler. On the top is a row or band of Persian alphabet, which goes from right to left. And at the bottom here, this is Afshan, which has that, like, this whole pattern is taking the name from this. So that's Afshan. And also, it also is known as mother flower. So yeah. I stitched this on 20 count Ada in vintage country mocha, and I used my favorite red sulky, which is chestnut in 1189. It was released for Black Sampler in November. Next is Black Vintage Sampler by Owl Forest Embroidery. This is the biggest project that I finished in 2022. So tall. I stitched it on 18 count Ada. This is a random Ada that I bought when I started stitching. It's not a good quality Ada. And then I used two different sulkies. So majority of it is in black, which is 1005. And then the other one is my favorite red, which is chestnut, 1189. And other than the border that has accent in red, also some of the motifs are stitched in red but have like some specific meaning to me personally. Next three finishes are Daffodil by Pegasus Designs. This is one of them. I don't have the other two. So this was to commemorate my grandpa's passed in 2021. I known him for his love of daffodils. He always had daffodils in his garden. There are tons of photos. I remember like him cutting daffodils and bringing them in from his garden fresh to give to my grandma or us when we were around. So yeah, it always reminds me of him. So I'm stitching daffodils in his memory and sending them to, my plan is to send them to family to remember him with. So yeah, it's stitched on 20 count white Ada, and I use some like random threads I have in my stash. And they're turning into keychains. Next is Ornate Pomegranates by Night Spirit Studio. This was stitched for winter solstice. I stitched it on 18 count Ada hand dyed by me. This used to be yellow, but then I over dyed it with black and blue, and now it's navy with some black mottling in it. And I used threads from Stash. These are unnamed threads from Stash. Next is Cross Patch by Pixel Pixie Stitches. You can see I stitched it on 18 count barnwood, and I used my own sulky conversion. This is not an exact like match to what was called for, but I just went with colors that are called to me. This is a softer look. The original is actually really striking. This one is a softer look. I love all the tiny little motifs in the border. It's a really cute border. I really enjoyed stitching it. This one was for a sal that Michelle Bendy actually started. And yeah, I was not planning on actually finishing this project in December, but when I started stitching it, I actually really enjoyed it, so I finished it. Next is a model that I cannot really share with you. It's a model of my first release for the new collection that I'm coming out with in 2023. So you don't need to wait that long for it. January 1st, that will be released. And you're gonna see it in a separate video that I actually had like dedicated to that release. But the model was a stitch on 20 count sugarlet, 20 count Ada in sugarlet from Jessie Mislaid Pages, and I use Sulky Black, so 1005 to stitch that. And last project for cross stitch is Peppermint Purple Sal 2022, and this is black work, and it was, here's the image. This was stitched on 16 count Ada in light coffee using two different sulky threads. The border is in Admiral Blue, and the center, like all the weekly drops, are in primaries. Next, I'm going to go over all the diamond paintings that I finished in 2022. So first one is Alice and White Rabbit. Here's the image. It was purchased from Mary's Diamond, and it's round drill, and the size is 60 by 60 centimeters. Next is Pomegranate. Here's the image. It's the custom that I made on Mien. It's one of the stores on AliExpress. And the image that I use is from Pixabay, which is a website with royalty-free and copyright-free images that you can use for personal projects or commercial use. And the size is 30 by 40 and is round drills. Next is Steampunk Bestie. Here is the image. The size is 50 by 70 centimeters. It's a round drill, and I purchased it from Diamond Art Rings. Next is Splashing the Bloom. Here is the image. It's from Crafties, and it's round drill, and the size is 50 by 40. Next is Award Awaits. Here's the image. Is a square drill, and the size is 55 by 66. Next is Sunbathing Kitty. Here's the image. It's round drill, and the size is 32 by 42. Next is Woman in Gold. Here is the image. It was from Diamond Dots, and the size is 67 by 91. It's round drill plus special drills. Special drills included metallics and also special shape drills. Next is Mishki and Me. Here's the image. This was another custom that I made in Manui. That's another store on AliExpress, and the size was 40 by 54, and it was round drills. Next is Dear and Delicate. Here's the image. It was from Crafties, and it's round drills, and the size is 40 by 50. Next is Blue Hat Girl. Here is the image. This was from Kuhal, and this is a vintage poster card image that was turned into diamond painting, and it's round drill, and the size is 45 by 60. Next is Vase avec Marguerite. This is the image. Is one of the Van Gogh's paintings, and it's square drills, and the size is 43 by 64. Next is Camel Cat and Canary. Here's the image. This is another costume that I made from Manoi, which is a store on AliExpress, and it's round drill, and the size is 50 by 64. Next is Cherry Blossom. Here's the image. It was from Treasure Studios Art, and the size is 50 by 100, and it was round drill. Next is Red Watering Can. Here's the image. This was a square drill, and it was 56 by 56 centimeters. And lastly is Faceless Ghosts. Here's the image. And it was purchased from Uniquely Yours Down Under, and it's round drill, and the size is 65 by 80. So that is it. Now a little bit of information and tally. So I had total of 42 cross stitch projects finished in 2022, including 14 of them that were modular stitches of my own designs. I completed 15 diamond painting kits, and off of those, 3 were square drills, and 11 were round drills, and 1 was round drills plus special drills. The total of my craft project finishes for year of 2022 were 57 projects. I'm really proud and sort of actually surprised by the number, because I was not expecting to get to that number. I thought I actually made fewer projects than that, and this actually does not include all the sewing that I did. I made a lot of project bags. I made thread beds and all the other little projects that I made during 2022, and other things that I randomly did here and there, like a crochet project here and there. So yeah, here to another year, successful year. I'm hoping that 2023, I don't want to say like I want to break this my record and even make more projects, because it's not about the number, it's about enjoyment, and I know that I enjoyed a lot of my projects that I did in 2022, and so I'm hoping that I have the same enjoyment get the same enjoyment from my projects in 2023. Now, if the number is higher or lower, it doesn't matter, as long as I actually had fun and enjoyed stitching or diamond painting, right? So I hope the same for you. First of all, I hope that you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed walking through the timeline and see what I have worked on during the year, what I was able to finish during the year of 2022. And I hope as much as or as little as you have stitched or diamond painted or crafted in general during this year has been enjoyable and satisfying to you. So I'm looking forward to hear from you, hear your thoughts, and if you have made a similar video, tag me or mention it below. Alright, take care everyone, and bye.